You are listening to Stories from the Heart, inspiring tales of life, love, and learning, presented by the Camarillo Health Care District. In this episode, Leslie McLeod of Camarillo shares a story about family dynamics, aging parents, and forgiveness.
The yellowed photograph is nearly 6 decades old, but I still recognize the bewilderment on my 4-year-old face as I squint into the bright sunshine of our brand new home in Southern California, the landscape still barren except for a couple of palm trees. My family has just tumbled out of our crammed station wagon after driving 1,800 miles from St. Louis. My 3 older siblings, Dad, and Mom, pregnant with my little sister. I grew up in the San Gabriel Valley in the 60s and 70s, Mom handling domestic operations while Dad focused on his medical device company, serious and remote at home, except for those memorable bouts of paternal discipline. My sister Susie and I were 2 years apart, best friends, partners in all things Barbie, and often mistaken for twins dressed in our matching outfits. Becky was considerably older and Carol considerably younger, with the only boy, Steve, firmly enthroned as prince. A born prankster, little Stevie got an early start at age 2 or 3 when, according to family legend, he stuffed his jack-in-the-box with cookies, announcing when caught, "I, a neaky boy." One of his favorite tricks as a teenager was to hide behind a hall door until a younger sister passed by, then jump out yelling, "Booga booga!" and giving her a heart attack. Still, any attention from Big Brother was a thrill. We worshipped him. Our family remained tight-knit even as one by one we moved out and started our own lives. Pursuing his love of art, Steve moved to Europe and kept in touch mostly through colorful postcards. We 4 sisters remained close and were the bridesmaids at each other's weddings, all of us taking a turn as maid or matron of honor. I don't even remember which sister was mine. It just didn't matter. As the grandchildren came along, our brother settled down in Minnesota, oldest sister near Tacoma, and the 3 youngest sisters each an hour or 2 from our parents' home. Occasionally, the whole family would get together for a huge Christmas celebration, the empty rooms filled once again with laughter, mountains of crumpled gift wrap, and the scent of Mom's hot cinnamon cranberry punch. In 1996, we threw a surprise 65th birthday party for my mom, and then collaborated again 6 years later for our parents' 50th anniversary celebration. Over the next decade, our children grew up and our parents grew elderly, with medical issues I did my best not to notice. Mom's chronic high blood pressure and arthritis, Dad's heart disease, and encroaching memory loss. I lived about an hour away and, busy with my own family and job, only saw them every couple of months. When I passed through their familiar front door, though, the scent of Mom's fabric softener enveloped me like an embrace. A prolific artist, her cheerful paintings and sculptures smiled at me from every corner and cranny. Although she now struggled to get around, Mom was still my loyal cheerleader. And supportive as ever, my dad still slipped me a few bucks whenever he could. With my head planted firmly in the sand, I refused to listen to that quiet voice whispering that they would one day be gone. When she brought up what would happen to her treasures, I humored my mom by taping my name on the back of a favorite painting, then quickly changed the subject, assuring her that we'd deal with all that when the time came. Then in 2013, I shepherded my parents across the country to visit my brother's new home near Minneapolis. I stepped into the kitchen to help clean up after a wonderful dinner prepared by my sister-in-law when she pulled my brother and me aside and said in a gentle but firm voice, "It's time for you guys to start talking about your mom and dad." What did she mean? Sure, they were slowing down, but they were okay, weren't they? They were not okay. 3 months later, I got a call from Susie that Mom had been rushed to the hospital, barely conscious. I jumped into my Prius and sliced through LA rush hour traffic to meet with the doctors who determined that she had overdosed on a blood thinner. Baffled, Susie and I went to the house and discovered dozens of bottles of pills in her medicine cabinet and still more on the shelf of her closet. She had been prescribed a variety of medications and, throwing nothing away, as her generation had been taught, became confused about which she should take and when. Blindsided, my siblings and I rallied to come up with a plan in a flurry of frantic calls and emails. Thankfully, Mom survived the overdose, but she came home to a house overrun with caregivers, therapists, nurses, and housekeepers. Even with all the help, her ability to function went downhill over the next year. The situation was nearly a full-time job to manage. I kept my bag packed and my gas tank full, grateful when the other siblings could take turns sharing the load. While Mom was surrounded by an army of round-the-clock caregivers, Dad's ability to process information slowly deteriorated. He still drove into work every day, napping on a couch in his office most of the afternoon, while Susie tried desperately to keep the business afloat. His ability to handle the car became an increasing concern. He was no longer able to find their favorite restaurant, and then one day as he was exiting the McDonald's drive-thru, he mixed up the gas and brake pedals, plowing into a vehicle whose occupants were mercifully not injured. He felt so bad that the kind police officer downplayed it, saying, "Well, everybody makes mistakes," rather than report it. Before he could do further damage, Dad ended up in the hospital with a life-threatening gallbladder infection. During his recovery, we brought in a neurologist who diagnosed it conclusively: Alzheimer's. We siblings agreed that this was our God-given opportunity to help Dad make the tough decisions. Suddenly, boom, he was retired with no driver's license and no financial responsibilities. The astounding thing was the grace with which he took the news. It's as if he were relieved of a burden he could no longer bear. However, it was now impossible for him and Mom to both receive the high level of care they needed at home. We quickly found a lovely assisted living facility with memory care not far from where they lived. Mom was heartbroken to leave her home, but she was determined to go wherever he went. After a whirlwind process, Dad moved in and quickly became the darling of the dementia unit, joking and even dancing during the music hour. Unbelievable. The only thing he missed was Mom, who'd become ill again and had to recuperate at the house before she could move. My brother and his wife flew in to care for Mom for a couple of weeks, volunteering to help them downsize their closets and organize what they'd need in their new home. I was thankful for the break. After they left, though, Susie saw 2 pallets at our dad's business, stacked high and ready to be shipped to Minnesota. The Niki boy had downsized considerably more than the closets. The house looked like it had been ransacked by art thieves. Bear hooks pockmarked the walls that had once displayed our mother's paintings. Knickknacks had been rearranged on the shelves where sculptures once were. A piece of paper with a hand-drawn smiley face dangled like a loose tooth in a blank space among the family photo montage. Shock, confusion, anger, and sadness ganged up on me. In my grieving mind, my mother and her home were one. To remove her treasures before she had moved out, much less passed on, was a desecration. It was as if my brother had dynamited the facade I had unconsciously erected. As long as her home remained beautiful and whole, she would as well. Then, too, I had assumed that nothing would be claimed before our parents died, when we would work together to divide their belongings fairly. Taking them unilaterally and prematurely? Unthinkable. I couldn't bring myself to talk to him about it. We spoke briefly at Mom's funeral and then again at Dad's a year later, moving on with a superficial long-distance relationship. My pain festered, though, for years. I forgave him repeatedly, but I could never reconcile the brother I thought I knew with what he had done. Then I stumbled across Matthew 5:24 in my Bible, and it says, "Leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift." Well, the verse refers to the priority of relationship over religious ritual. So after much prayer, I gathered the courage to call him. On the other end of the line, my brother's voice sounded genuinely baffled. "Les," he said, "I live 2,000 miles away. You guys at least live in the same state. You had plenty of time to take or label the things you wanted. We talked, and Mom figured nobody wanted what was left, so she told me to go ahead and take it with her blessing." I nearly dropped the phone. It had never occurred to him to check with anyone else. If we had only made a plan and communicated it earlier as a family, we could have avoided so much misunderstanding and regret. We ended the phone call with a measure of understanding and healing. My interactions with my brother are now cordial but infrequent. We may never be close. But through the crucible of losing first one parent and then the other, my sisters and I have formed a bond far tighter than we ever had before. To me, relationships are the most important thing in the world. They're also the most vulnerable, especially when we're dealing with an ailing loved one and our own fragile, supersized emotions. Through the season of caring for our parents, my siblings and I experienced rifts, but also some of the most precious times of connection, loving on our mom and dad, and now loving on each other as we redefine our family and navigate a new normal together.
Thank you for listening to Stories from the Heart, inspiring tales of life, love, and learning, presented by the Camarillo Health Care District. If you would like to share your story, please visit www.camhealth.com and fill out our form under Share Your Story. You will work with a storytelling coach to fine-tune your story for broadcast. We are looking for people to share health or caregiving journeys, to talk about personal experience, moments in time, and lessons learned while navigating life. These life stories will paint a visual picture with words. They should be 5 to 10 minutes long and must be primarily about the storyteller and their truths, experiences, and emotions.